Good morning, everyone. I think I'm live. I hope everybody is having a good day today, good week so far. It is Wednesday. I'm very discombobulated today, so bear with me for a little bit. One of the things I've noticed is I put my singing bowl really close, so if I wanted to use it, for those of you that don't know, I've just recently redone my whole area here, and part of it was to put my singing bowl really close so that I could use it if I want to. But I've also noticed that if I talk really loud, it goes off. So let me know if that is causing like weird feedback or anything in the video, because I can certainly hear it, but I don't know. It's pretty close to the monitor, so you guys can probably hear it too. So I just lit a little bit of sage there to go. And again, I just broke it off my big bundle because I don't want to light that big giant bundle. So anyway, squirrel. It's like it just goes on cue. So yeah, I'm a little out of sorts today, so just bear with me. But we are here today to talk about Clairaudience. This is the second video of an 8-part series that I'm doing. So I was supposed to do every week for January and February, and I didn't get to one last week because we had a little bit of a family emergency. My husband ended up in the ER and then ended up being transported down to Dartmouth. He's fine, he's good, he's home, but we were both just really stressed and tired, and there was a lot going on. So no need to worry or panic. He's, like I said, he's home, he's fine, he's back to work. But we were just taking, some time to just stay home and rest and just be with each other. When he went to Dartmouth, I couldn't go with him, so that was really hard on me. I think it was hard on him, but I know it was hard on me that I couldn't go with him. And so anyway, that's why we didn't have a video last week. So I'm actually doing 2 videos this week. So we have one today for Clairaudience, and then we have one on Friday for Clairsentience. And we will go over all things you need to know. There are lots of good books out there. I had a hard time finding one on the Clairs. I did find one. I'm not in love with the book. It's not a bad book. But it's not really a great book either. But it was about one of the only ones I could find on Clairsentience. So yeah, it's a little hard finding books about that. You can Google it and find all kinds of information online if you want, more. But what we're going to talk about today is pretty much about what they are, what each one is, what you can kind of expect. I try to give you the kind of the light and the dark side of them, because some people call them gifts and some people call them curses. And then I give you some suggestions of herbs and oils and some stones that you can work with if you want to do that. So let's start right out. And what does Clairaudience mean? And you can kind of, from some of the names kind of here, figure out what it is. I mean, Clairaudience, an audience is, a bunch of people. You have an audience. So, the names are a little weird, but you can kind of figure them out. But anyway, I'm here today to kind of help you with all that. So, Clairaudience means, I'm trying not to talk really loud because the singing bowl keeps going off. I may have to move that because it's distracting me. I don't know if it's distracting you guys, but it's distracting me. um, is having clear audio, so clear hearing is what that means. And so that can mean a bunch of different things, just like when we talked about last 2 weeks ago, we talked about the Clair, that was me in my notes, clairvoyancy, and being a clear seeing, a clear viewing. This is a clear hearing. And again, like I said, it comes in a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. So there'll be people out there that are like, this is how it is for me, and if it's not like that for you, then you don't have the same thing as me. And it's like, well, no, that's not really true. I think of it as, I always try to put weird analogies on things. And it's like playing the guitar. You can play, like 500 people can play the guitar, but one person plays country music, person plays jazz, one plays classic rock. Just because you're all guitar players doesn't mean you all do everything the same or play the same. So, that's kind of, when I'm thinking about these different things, like, how can I put that in a way that seems to make sense to me and to other people? And so those are kind of weird analogies that my brain comes up with. But so the voice that you hear, this one is a little tricky in my opinion, because how many times have we seen or read in the paper or whatever about criminals who are like, well, I did it because the voice of God told me to. People that are killing or cults or whatever, and they're like, because God told me to. And so I don't necessarily buy into that. Whether it's God, Source, Gaia, whatever the spirits, higher self, whatever it is, they're not going to tell you to do bad things. They're going to tell you to do things to better yourself, better, the people around you, better the planet, better your life. They're not going to tell you to go kill people or do bad, horrible things. So just if somebody in your head is telling you to do bad things, I suggest you make an appointment and get to see a doctor, because those are probably not that is probably not a clairaudience gift that you have if something in your head is telling you to do bad things. That might need some medication. But again, that's why it's kind of a tricky one, because it kind of does cross over into some other things. I mean, we've all been around, people that are like, oh, I see ghosts all the time and stuff, and you're like, that lady's crazy. And there's a possibility that's true. Just the same with any of these. There's always a possibility that the person is just a little off kiltered. But that aside, I'm not going to go into that anymore, but that aside, they can come in different ways. So the voices in your head could be of God, goddess, source, different deities, things of that sort. Could be spirit. So could be higher self. It could be ancestors who have passed. So the voices may come in a lot of different ways for you. Sometimes you will actually hear them. They're like, you can tell they're there. You can hear them from a distance. Other times, it may be more of in your head kind of hearing, and again, that's where it kind of gets a little tricky. But that is called your. You may hear it through your etheric ear, which is, or your physical ear. So etheric. I wrote etheric, but I think it's etherical. ear or your physical ear are the two ways that you can the hear the voices. Just saying it makes me like I'm like, this is just a crazy conversation. um, so yeah, it could be inside or outside of your head is basically what that means. And it would not be in your own voice. Like if you're hearing your own voice in your head, that's more of your own thoughts. That's more of your intuition. And that's a little different. And so that's what I get a lot of when things go through my head. It's in my own voice. So it's myself, my higher self, my intuition that is working through me that way. It's not voices of other people. Um, so let's see here. Messages are going to be, again, they're going to be something that's going to be uplifting. They're going to be something that's going to be for bettering you, for bettering people around you, for bettering your situation. Um, they're not going to be, to kill or harm or, hurt anybody or anything. They could also be possible warnings. Now, that's what a lot of different messages seem to come through for people. And I think my opinion on that is I think they get all those other messages, but when people pick up on a warning, they really pay attention. Like something bad's going to happen. So those are the ones they tend to pay attention to, and not the other ones so much of like, you got this and you're good and, things like that. The good positive ones, people don't tend to latch onto them and pay as much of attention as they do as the warning ones. So I think they do get both. I think they just don't really pay as much attention to the positive messages that come through. Um, so again, that's like the same as your intuition when I talk about intuition and paying attention to that. Whenever anything is coming through for you, just take a second. You don't have to make a big thing out of it, but you can just stop for a second and think about, like, was that me, or was that someone else, or was that my intuition, and kind of, practice almost like and figure out what it was and where it came from. And then as you do that more and you pay attention more, it will come more easily to you. That's not really like grammatically correct, but um, the dog's moving around over there. I can see the blankets going up and down. Um, but yeah, the more you pay attention and the more you focus and the more you, kind of tune in on it like a radio, kind of like, okay, it's there, but I'm not really getting it. And you kind of fine tune it a little bit, and so it comes in a little better. Again, my weird analogies. Um, so some of the other things I wanted to talk about are things like, so if you're the person that's like, I think I'm getting that, but I'm not really sure. I think I'm clairaudience, but I'm not really sure. So some of the things that you may expect, and I put a couple of different memes in the event, so you can go back and look at them or, screenshot them if you want, whatever you want to do. But they're there for your information to kind of help with this as well. One of the big things is ringing in your ears. My ears ring all the time. And so what that is they call that like a download. Now, probably thousands of years ago, they didn't really probably call it a download because they probably didn't really know what a download was as far as like us with the computers and all our internets and stuff. But yeah, when you get that ringing in your ear, mine is typically this one, and it typically rings. It's ringing now. It rings pretty much all the time. And so what that is that's information that's coming through to you on your subconscious level. So you're not actually hearing a voice, you're not actually getting an actual message. It's just downloads of information that are coming to you that that may come up for you later, or may come through from my intuition or different things. So if you've got ringing in your ear, you can certainly go to a doctor and get it checked. but usually it's a ringing in the ear that doesn't have any physical like reasoning behind it. But if you have ringing in your ear, you should go get it checked if you haven't already, just in case. But yeah, I've had my ears checked, I've had my hearing checked, and there's nothing wrong with my ears ever. But I constantly have ringing. It's almost weird for me to not have when they're not ringing. I'm like, what's going on? My ears are not ringing. So that is a part of being clairaudient. And so it's kind of like I said, downloading. Another word people might use is calibrating. So if you hear somebody say it's calibrating, that's kind of what that means as well. Unless they're like talking about calibrating their engine of their car or something. Sometimes it's staticky. So if you kind of hear that like white noise and there's no source for white noise, that could be, again, some sort of downloading that you could be receiving. I don't know what I wrote here. I wrote far away, so you hear things from far away. And I wrote, I think it says out of time, but that doesn't make any sense. I'm not really sure what I wrote there. Sometimes my writing gets very messy. Some of the other things, and I have a lot of these, okay. I don't hear voices very often, very, very seldomly. And I'll get to some of those things in a second, but very, very seldomly do I actually hear a voice. But I have a lot of the other parts. So again, it's not always the same for everybody. You can be very sensitive to sound. I am sensitive in the way that it irritates me, not that the way it hurts my ears or like, my son is sensitive to sound, but loud sounds actually really hurt his ears. But I am sensitive to sound more as, it's like, it's just never quiet. Why is it never ever quiet? At work, it's noisy all day long. And when you're in the car, it's noisy all day long. And I've got to the point where a lot of times in the car, I just turn off the radio because I just want it to be quiet. I come home and I love my husband. We talk about our day, and then we watch TV. And if the TV's not going, there's music going. And sometimes, like if my husband goes out and goes for a walk and stuff, I just turn the TV off. I turn everything off and just leave it quiet. It's like there's just not enough quiet in the world right now. Another thing you can do, which is hard for me, is you can actually stop and listen and pay attention to the sounds and see if there are sounds that are trying to come through to you. Like I said, it's very noisy out there. When we're outside, we've got traffic, we've got airplanes, we've maybe got music, we've got maybe helicopters, birds, dogs barking, and stuff. And so sometimes if you just kind of sit and you can just kind of listen to the different sounds and see if you can pick out different sounds and maybe pick out a sound that doesn't seem like it's quite right, it's not quite in the right place. Those might be sounds that you should be paying attention to. For me at work, it's just people talking. Nobody ever shuts up in our office. So I'm not paying attention to those sounds. I don't think those are really messages for me. But that's a good thing to practice if you can, is if you're in a very noisy spot, or even if you're just outside, there's a lot of different noises that are outside, and just see if you can pay attention and kind of see like that noise doesn't seem like it should be a noise that I should be hearing. So yeah, like not yesterday, Monday, I was making my morning video for the weekly forecast, and I kept hearing like a phone buzz, like it was on vibrate. My phone was right beside me, but the sound sounded like it was coming from over here. And so I don't really know what that was, but I kept hearing it. I heard it a couple times, and it threw me off track, like doing my video, because I'm like, what is that? What am I hearing? But it was a sound that wasn't right because, like I said, my phone was right here on the table, and it sounded like it was coming from over here somewhere, which would normally be where my husband's phone was, but he had his phone with him at work. So pay attention to just little sounds that like don't really seem like they're quite right. They're not really in the right place at the right time, and just kind of practice on honing in on the different sounds, and that may help when sounds that you want to be picking up on are coming through. Other things you can do is you can actually listen to white noise. The other things you can do is you can okay, so if you want to kind of practice that listening to the sounds and stuff, sometimes white noise is good to use for that. Other times, white noise can just be a noise if you're trying to kind of drown out other noises. So it depends on what your intention is there, and again, it can be a little tricky because it can be used both ways, in my opinion. So if you're trying to listen and focus and practice, playing some white noise is good. So then you're actually trying to focus on pulling in the other sounds, but white noise can also be good for drowning out other sounds as well. At work, we just got a big air purifier, COVID and everything, and they put it right next to my desk, and it makes just a very light hum sound, and I actually find it helpful with kind of getting rid of some of the other noise that's around me. Not always, but it does kind of help. So having that little bit of a hum and that white noise kind of a sound helps me kind of tune out some of the other sounds that are coming from the office. That's the way my desk is. Sorry, my desk is here, and there's nobody on this side of me except for the big purifier now, and everybody else is on that side of the office. So that's where all the noise comes from. Some of the other things you might want to do is you can use music, and again, you can use it both ways. So you can play music softly and practice and pulling out sounds from different areas and seeing what you can really, like if music is playing, you can practice focusing in. And that's what I kind of do with the purifier at work. When it gets really noisy, I kind of try to focus on listening to the air purifier and not the people that are talking. So it's a good practice that way as well. So music can do that. I'm not necessarily thinking maybe hard rock, but you could play some like calming music, meditative music, things like that, and that might help you practice picking out sounds. If you're trying to block sounds and not pick up on sounds, then sure, blast your rock music. So again, it can be kind of used both ways. But if you just want to put on a little music or a little white noise low, and then sit and kind of see if you can be like, okay, I hear a car coming, or I hear a bird, I hear the singing bowl, and things, and you can kind of focus in on those different sounds. Just some things you can maybe try. Some of the other things that you may be able to do is you may actually be, I don't know too many of these people. Now we see a lot of different mediums on TV and mediums that are, doing different phone call things and video things and things like that. And excuse me, I don't think they're all phonies, but I don't think they're all real either. So if you're going to a medium, just be aware, pay attention to things. A friend of mine went to a medium, and she went a couple times, and the first time she said was pretty good. she said the lady definitely knew some things that she shouldn't have known. And so she's like, okay, so she was real. And she went back to her. But every time she'd go back to her, um, the lady would talk more and more about the things they had talked about like last time. So the medium was basically taking notes of what my friend was saying and asking about. So then when she came back, she kind of had things that she was talking about for that. So it was almost like, so then she kind of got the feeling like this lady's just kind of telling me back what I said kind of last time in different ways. So just pay attention to some of the things, um, and be healthily. That's not a word. Healthily. Be suspicious to a degree, I guess. There's a word I'm looking for. I can't find it. Um, but yeah, I don't think they're all fakes, but I don't think they're all real either. So just, pay attention to what they're telling you, and pay attention to if they're asking you a ton of questions, that makes me think they're not real. And I don't know. That's why I say makes me think, because I don't know. But to me, if they're asking me a lot of questions, it's like, no, you're supposed to be telling me. I'm not supposed to be telling you. I'm not paying you to ask me a bunch of questions. Um, and when they'll say things like, I've been to a medium, he'll be like, and the person would be like, ask me a question about something, and I just give them yes or no. Where a lot of people will tend to go yes and go into a whole story for them, and I just will say yes, oh yeah, that, yeah, or no, and then let them tell me. So we fall into that naturally. When somebody asks us a question, we don't just give them a yes or no answer. We end up giving them an answer and then telling them the whole story. And then they're like, yeah, I'm picking up on that. And it's like, sure you are, because I just told you all about it. um, so yeah, just be to a degree skeptical about it. Don't go in it with like, oh, this person is a phony. But don't go into it with, this person is going to give you all the answers, and you know they're gonna solve all your problems for you, because that's not really how it works. Um, so, but anyway, where I was going with the whole medium thing before I got sidetracked on my little tangent there is, there are a few cases where people can actually have conversations with, spirits, um, whether you want to call it spirits, angels, ancestors, whatever the word you pick is fine. Um, they can actually have a conversation, a back and forth. They can like ask them a question and get an answer, and then have a back and forth conversation. Um, like if just like you and I were having a conversation, this person can have a conversation back and forth, and that is typically what is called a medium, which is part of the clairaudience gift. Some mediums can see as well, which is part of the clairvoyance, and a lot of people who, how do I say this? A lot of people who have a natural gift may have multiple natural gifts, and other people will have to practice and get better at it. Like I said, all of the clairs, everybody has all of them. Typically what happens is we shut them down on ourselves. As we are kids, we have our imaginary friends, we have people we see, people we hear, and stuff, and our parents, grandparents, adults in our lives have, told us that's not real, that's your imagination, and as you get older, you shut all of it down. And then at some point, you can kind of open that back up. Um, there are people out there who have parents who support that, and so that is a big step for them, because they're not being told to shut it all down, and they grow up practicing and using their gifts. but for most of us, we were told at some point in our age that our imaginary friends weren't real, and not to talk to our imaginary friends, and or we can't see our imaginary friends, they're not real. So somewhere we have to get back to practicing those gifts again. And anyway, again, I'm sidetracking myself here, horrible today. But the point of it all is, if you have, it's not like you just have one and you can't have the others, is basically where I'm going with this. I have little bits of most of these, um, but even though I have the ringing in my ears, and I have often heard people say hello or things like that, I don't consider myself a medium, because it's not a gift that easily comes to me, or that I feel well practiced in enough. You know, like I could certainly say yes, clairaudience is one of my gifts, um, but in my opinion, we all have all of these, and um, if I pick up my drum right now and just start banging on it, I could say, yeah, I'm a drummer, but I'm not very good at it. I'm not practiced. It doesn't sound good. So it's like, really, are you a drummer, or are you just a person banging on a drum? And so that's kind of how I feel about the clairaudience in myself. Like, I can do it, I have it, but I'm not well practiced at it, and I'm not at a part where I feel comfortable to say that I'm a, I have I'm a clairaudient, and it would probably be a lot to happen before I would say I was comfortable to say I was a medium, because basically I have on occasion throughout my life that heard people say hello. I've heard people talking at a distance, like they're really far away. There was one night I was sitting here on the couch, and my husband had gone to bed, and I'm like, is he down there talking on his phone? But his phone was here on the stand beside the couch. So I'm like, he's not talking on the phone. Is he talking in his sleep? And I actually got up and went down there, and no, he was sound asleep and he wasn't talking, and I couldn't hear anything. And then I went back to the couch, and a little while later, I could hear it again, and it sounded like two people having a conversation, but I couldn't really make out what was being said, or what they were talking about or anything. And again, I got up and went down the hallway to look, and I'm like, I thought somebody was outside or something, and there was nobody around. Maybe there was somebody outside I didn't see, but I couldn't find any source. And when I went down the hallway, it stopped. So it was really kind of weird. But um, so I do occasionally hear things, but I'm not at a point where I feel like someone's having a conversation with me, or anything like that. And I don't hear like in my etherical ear. I hear with my physical ear. But like I said, I do have the ringing all the time, and I do have the sensitivity to sound. Um, so some of the things I just wrote again are things I think I've already said. Is just pay attention, and don't second guess things, because that's that whole, we were taught at some point to not pay attention to those can't be real, that's not how things are. You know, if there's not a person there, you can't be hearing voices. And so we have to get back to paying attention to those and not second guessing ourselves. And it's hard, because even that night I was hearing voices. That's what I was doing. I was second guessing myself. I'm like, but at first I just thought, I was like, well, my husband on the phone to somebody? That's really weird. And then like I said, I looked and his phone was right beside the couch, and I'm like, okay, is he talking in his sleep? Because I've never really heard him talk in his sleep. Um, Sometimes he mumbles a little bit, or if he's having a dream, he might make some sounds. Um, but he's never talked in his sleep. So I was like, but that's where I was like second guessing myself. But I was trying to find like a rational reason for what I was hearing. And instead of just accepting that I was hearing two people have a conversation that just are not visible to me. Um, so I just wrote quick bullets here. So again, I'll just kind of go over it real quick. Might hear your name or hello. I don't know how many times I've been doing something and I hear a woman's voice that's like, hello. Like if somebody came to your door and like opened your door, they'd be like, hello. I've heard that several times in my life. And you go to look and there's nobody here. um, you enjoy the quiet. So we've talked about that, enjoying the quiet. People who talk to themselves. It's not really part of the clairaudience gift, talking to yourself. Um, but it seems to be people who do this tend to be more clairaudient. And I tell you what, this is one I do all the time. And if it's not in my head, I actually talk out loud to myself. It's horrible. But I constantly have a dialogue of things going in my head, whether it's things I need to do, things I want to do, things I want to make, things I need to make, things I need to get at the grocery store. Like there's a voice in my head running like 24/7. Um, you might enjoy music, and again, it can be for a couple of different reasons. You might be enjoying the music because it's helping block out sounds. So if you're somebody who on the scale of it doesn't like hearing voices, doesn't like hearing these things, um, you may use the music to try to block things out for yourself. Um, People who are clairaudience tend to naturally give good advice, have the ringing or a high pitch in your ear all the time. And people who are clairaudient will tend to pick up signs, messages, whatever you want to call it, in music. Um, so um, I had this happen to me like maybe 2, 3 months ago. I thought it was really weird. All right, so just giving you an example of how different things can come through. It doesn't necessarily mean you heard a song and you picked up a message and you got it. It could be that. Um, but for me, my experience was I woke up one morning and I just had one line of a song that was running through my head, and there was no radio playing. There was nothing, going on. I didn't hear the song like the day before or anything like that. I woke up and this song was just stuck in the just one line stuck in my head over and over and over again. And I thought, well, that was really weird. Well, the next morning I woke up and I had a line from a completely different song. And again, it was just the one line that just kept going over my head, over my head, over my head. And so I said, okay, I'm going to write these down. And the point at the time to write them down was to try to get them unstuck. I'm like, maybe if I write them down, whatever is trying to come through for me will get it out of my head. So I wrote down the 2 lines. So this happened to me for about 4 or 5 days, 5 days in a row. Every morning I woke up, I had a different line that was stuck in my head. And so I would get up in the morning and I had a little notebook and I'd write the line down and I'd go off on my day. And I kept thinking, well, this is really weird. Why am I getting all these and things? So it just happened to be one day that I went back and I looked at the notebook and I read all the lines together, and it was like a perfect message coming through. It was like, holy shit, that is really weird. Like I lined up all the 5 lyrics that I had in my head, and it was like a letter, a message. And I was like, oh my God, that's really weird. And that started me off on a whole nother thing, because then I was like, all right, what do I think this is about? Who do I think this is about? What should I be doing about this? I got out my pendulum, and it set me down a whole rabbit hole of things. But so if you are somebody who just happens to get a weird random song lyric stuck in your head, pay attention to that. Even if you just write it on a sticky note or something, or put it somewhere, or whatever, type it into your phone, on your calendar. I don't know, whatever you want to do with it. But I didn't piece it together until I went back and looked at all the lines to get all the song lyrics together, and then it was like a perfect message. I was like, oh my gosh. So it can come through in really weird, different ways. And so we have to be open to the fact that these messages, things that we're hearing, things that we're receiving, are coming through in very different ways for different people. I didn't hear a voice. I didn't have a voice outside of my head or inside of my head. It was just a song lyric that was stuck in my head. And every morning for 5 days, I had a different song lyric. And I was like, well, this is weird. I'm like, this just doesn't make any sense. But then, like I said, when I looked at the notebook and I read when I matched up all the lines and put them together, it made perfect sense to me what it was supposed to be about, or that it was supposed to be a message. And then I had to kind of figure out who it was about and what I was supposed to do with the message and things of that sort. But anyway, just, like I was saying way at the beginning of the video, if somebody says, well, you don't hear voices and you don't have a conversation with a ghost, then you don't have clairaudience. And that's not really how it is. You could be clairaudient in a bunch of different ways. So just keep that in mind. If you want to work with a couple of stones to help work with this, if you want to enhance it. Phantom quartz is a good one to work with. Selenite is a good one, and sapphire. My opinion on that is I don't know if I would pick a selenite to work with. When I was doing research and checking my notes and checking books and everything, those were the three that kept coming up. There's a couple other ones that were in there as well, but those are the three that kept coming up. And the thing is with selenite is so naturally clearing. I'm not sure, in my opinion, that is one I would pick. Now, if you want to work with it and try it out and then be like, yeah, that didn't really work for me, or maybe it does work for you. But my own personal thought on that is selenite is just too clearing. It just kind of seems to wash everything away. And so I don't know if that's one I would pick, but that's for you to decide. So if you have a piece of selenite, you can try it and see what happens. Maybe you'll have a different result than what I'm thinking. All right, so to finish up, herbs and oils that you could work with. And you can work with either one or both. There's no right or wrong way. So if you have some of these in herbs and some of these in oils, you can mix them together and make an incense blend. You could mix what you have for oils together and make a nice little perfume blend. Whatever you have, work with it the way you can. But some of the ones to work with are catnip, cinnamon, hibiscus, juniper berries, rose petals, seaweed, and star anise. So those are some good ones to work with. I think I have all of these except for seaweed. I don't think I have any seaweed, but I have catnip, I have cinnamon, I have them in the sticks, and I have them in powder in my kitchen cabinet. But I have some cinnamon chips. I have some hibiscus flowers. I have juniper berries. I have rose petals, and I have star anise. But I don't think I have any seaweed. But I could take all of those and put them on my charcoal disc, and then I might want to get a phantom quartz and a sapphire for me would be what I would pick. So if I've got my incense going, and I've got my 2 crystals that I'm working with, and then maybe sit and do that noise practice that I talked about earlier. If you really want to start to hone in and strengthen your gifts a little bit and make things a little bit more natural, I guess, for you. So that is my 2 cents on clairaudience. As always, if you have questions, comments, want more information on anything, Certainly you can put it in the comments or private message me. That's fine. I don't mind. If it's a question you're not comfortable with asking in the comments, that is perfectly fine. Yeah, so if you think you have clairaudience, you probably do. And that's the same with any of them. If you think you're clairvoyant, you probably are. If you think you're clairaudient, you probably are. Um, but again, my opinion is we are all of us are all of these, have all of these. It's just whether or not they come more natural to you. And like I said, I have several of the things on this list, but I don't really consider myself a clairaudient um, because it's not a practice that I have got down, I guess, is, it's not something that I've got down and would be comfortable to say that I am a clairaudience. But I also think probably part of it for myself is that when you say you're clairaudient, people automatically assume that you have conversations with dead people. And again, and that's just the lack of their understanding. And that's partially to blame for, like I said, our parents telling us things are not real and that's not how life is, and that's make pretend, it's in our heads, it's imaginary, whatever. It's also part of TV, the way TV depicts things for us and makes us think this is how it has to be, and that's not the case, which is kind of what I'm hoping to kind of clarify for some of you in my videos, is that to be clairaudient, you are not going to be like the ghost whisperer and actually have a person standing here that you're having a conversation with back and forth. There are people out there that can do that, but it's very rare that people can see the person as a solid, more, or not solid, but a fully formed person, and have a conversation back and forth with them just like, anybody else. That's very rare. But TV depicts things in weird ways. And I often am mad at the TV. Watching his show the other day, and they were talking about the pentagram and how it was evil and it was Satan and all this. And I'm like, they really don't know what that means, do they? But I was, and so the more they kept referring it to Satan and the devil and stuff, the angrier I got. I'm like, that's not what it is. But anyway, just be aware of what you're watching on TV. Of don't get your education from TV, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, all right. So with that, I'm going to sign off. I will see you guys on Friday. We'll talk about clairsentience. And I hope you have a good couple of days. And as always, remember to be kind. Your kindness is not only going to improve your day, it's going to improve someone else's day. And it potentially could change someone's life for the better. So, and we need all the kindness and compassion that we can get right now. So, lots of love. See you in 2 days. Bye.